Alright guys, in today's video I am going to be ranking my eyeshadow palettes from worst to best. So this was a bit of a challenge because I have so many eyeshadow palettes that I love. There's some that I use more often than not, but most of the palettes that I have in my vanity right now are eyeshadow palettes that I love because I did do a really large declutter before I was on YouTube. And yeah, so I have gotten rid of a lot, but there still are some that I do not recommend. I'm not going to, I don't know, this is hard to gauge because I'm going to list my 15 favorite. The 15th place one isn't a bad palette. These are all good palettes. I just want to preface with that. But to start off this video, I did want to mention 3 palettes that I absolutely do not recommend. Just because I wanted to throw in some that are actually not good. I do have more than 15 eyeshadow palettes, but I just don't want this video to be 100 years long because who has time for that? So I'm just going to go over the top 15. The first eyeshadow palette I don't recommend is from Natasha Denona. This is the Mini Sunset palette. Now these shades look beautiful and they're not bad eyeshadows, but for Natasha Denona, they're bad eyeshadows. They're not, the mattes aren't very creamy. They don't last very well on the skin, and I think the biggest disappointment is the shimmer shades. They're just nothing special. They're not super pigmented. They are not her usual formula, and that's why I pay for Natasha Denona's to get her beautiful signature formula. So I was disappointed in this, and I don't think this one is worth the money. The second shadow palette that I don't think is worth the money is the Marc Jacobs. I've bought 2 of these. I've given away one of them. I don't even know why I still have this one, to be honest. These are the Iconic palettes, and this one is Scandalous. So actually I have one that's shattered in here, but I just get no use out of this one. These are fine, like they're a decent eyeshadow, but there's something that I think that you could get at a more affordable price, pardon. So the shadows are decent. They're nothing special. I would rather buy a Pat McGrath shadow. I'd rather buy Natasha Denona, her good palettes, and I'd rather spend my money on those great, amazing palettes than this one that is just average to me. They're not bad, like I said, but I just don't think it's worth the price, and I think you could get better eyeshadow palettes. The third one, which is a really sad one for me to say, is this one, the Natasha Denona Sunset palette. You could see me smell it a bit because unfortunately, and this is the only Natasha Denona shadow palette I've had a problem with, these eyeshadows have expired. And I haven't had this for that long. I bought this when this first released, which was what, like 2 years ago? And they have expired. The shimmer shades are still okay and I still use them. They're my favorites, but the matte shadows have expired and they have a bit of a smell to them, so I know that they have gone off, which is really disappointing when you spend so much money on a palette. This was a gorgeous palette, but I didn't get as much use as I would have liked to before the palette went off. And it's really weird that it has because I've never had an eyeshadow palette or eyeshadows that have actually gone bad, that have gone bad. They started off where they weren't blending the same and applying as nicely, but now I know it's expired. So unfortunately, these are ones that I'm gonna have to say do not buy. All right, so let's get moving to my 15 eyeshadow palettes that I'm going to be ranking from worst to best. Before we get into that, don't forget to subscribe to my channel down below, give this video a thumbs up, and I did want to give a shout out to the subscriber who requested this video. I wouldn't have filmed it unless you requested it, so don't forget, if you do have any suggestions, to leave them below because I will definitely film those. So starting off with number 15, this is the Lawless, the One Eyeshadow palette. So, I probably showed you a bad one. So my palette actually shattered. I have 2 of these because the first one shattered when Sephora sent it over to me, and then they just sent over another one. But this is a beautiful eyeshadow palette. It has a great range of tones in here. I feel like this eyeshadow palette is very beginner friendly. So the shadows aren't super duper pigmented where you struggle to blend them. And I also feel like the range of colors is really good, that you're not going to have a problem picking out shades to use. It's very user friendly. The pigmentation is very nice. It's not too intense right off the bat. They aren't super powdery, but they are gorgeous. For me, they wear all day. I would say one hesitation, if you have oily eyelids, I don't know if these would wear all day. I feel like they have that kind of longevity where they may just get absorbed into really oily skin. But for me, I really do enjoy this palette and I use it quite often. So this is number 15. Number 14 is the Tartelette Toasted Palette. Mine is a complete hot mess because I have dropped it on the floor, and I actually am probably going to repurchase this one, but I just feel like this is such a perfect eyeshadow palette for the fall and winter. I got so much use out of this. This is an eyeshadow palette that is super pigmented, and I feel like if you are a beginner, I wouldn't suggest this one either because they're a little harder to blend. You have to be a little more careful with your blending, but if you have some experience with makeup, and you know how to blend eyeshadows, and you know how to work with them, and you know how to work with really intensely pigmented eyeshadows, then I think you would love this. I love the color selection. I was really happy with this palette, and I know this is super underrated. Not a lot of people talk about it, but this is coming in at number 14. Coming in at number 13, we have a Tom Ford eyeshadow palette. This is the Golden Mink eyeshadow palette. So this is stunning. I love the color selection here. I love these top coats. These two, they're like those glitter top coats, and they're so sophisticated. Kind of, I don't even know if you'll be able to see them, but they're such sophisticated glitters. They're not chunky in the slightest. They're very smooth. They just look absolutely stunning on the eyes. There is nothing I can compare these top coats to. Just beautiful. And that is where I get the most use out of this palette. I love to top my eyeshadows off with this. And I feel like why this palette is ranked lower down is because there's not a good transition shade, and also these look really nice over top of eyeshadows. I usually wear them over top of like a more shimmery eyeshadow just to add that really elegant sparkle, especially for going out at night. But I feel like this is a more evening eyeshadow palette, and it's a palette that I usually use in conjunction with other ones. So that is why it is ranked a little lower, but it's still one of my favorites, and I absolutely love and recommend this one. Number 12, this may be a little bit of cheating, but these are the Charlotte Tilbury eyeshadow quads. I really like these, and my two favorites are the Dolce Vita, which is now actually called the Bella Sofia, I believe it's called. But it just has the most beautiful tones in it. It's a really gorgeous holiday palette, perfect for the fall time. This is something that I get a lot of use out, definitely in the more fall and winter months, but I just love this. Her glitters, again, I'd compare them to Tom Ford. They're not the same. They're a little more glittery, a little more chunky, but they're not chunky at all if you compare them to like a loose glitter, but very beautiful. I love this one. And the other one that I wanted to tie it with is the Exaggerize. This was a limited edition and she made it permanent, but I love these tones. I think they're the perfect neutrals. Again, this is more of an evening out palette that I'd use, and I just think this is so nice for special occasions, and that glitter again is just stunning. Highly recommend this one as well. I had to make them a tie, I'm sorry. But moving on to number 11, we have a Pat McGrath palette. So this is the Bronze Ambition. This one has these gorgeous neutrals in them. It's more on the warm brown side, and it only contains one matte shade. So that's kind of the downfall with this one, is that sometimes I find myself reaching for another palette to use as a transition shade, and then maybe grounding the look with a darker brown matte shadow. But I do love these shades. I think they're very pretty. They're so pigmented. There's no glitters in these formulas, so it's not her special shades in this palette at all. It's just that beautiful shimmer, and I kind of like those for everyday use. Again, highly recommend this palette. It's gorgeous. I use it quite often. No complaints with that one. I did want to quickly mention, I'm gonna mention no limited edition eyeshadow palettes that you can't purchase now, because that would just be ridiculous. So these are palettes that you can currently purchase at any retailer that offers them. Number 10, or sorry, is this number 11? This is number 10. So this is the Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Eyes to Hypnotize, her newest release for the holiday collection this year, with all these stunning shades. I've done 3 looks with this palette on my channel. I've talked about this in my favorites. I am absolutely obsessed with this. I love each color row. They're definitely shades that I will get use of, especially during this holiday season. I love this. Her formula in these larger palettes is different from the quads, I feel like. I don't know, she just steps it up in these. I love the shimmers. They're very sophisticated shimmers, no glitters at all. These two do have like the tiniest bit of glitter, but they're elegant, they're gorgeous. Can't get enough of this palette, and definitely suggest this one if you can pick that up. Another limited edition palette, but it is still available, is the Pat McGrath. This is the Iconic Illumination. So I've compared this before to the Charlotte Tilbury Dolce Vita, saying that I feel like this is the Dolce Vita on steroids. I am so excited to wear this during the holiday season. I feel like this is going to be my go-to special occasion Christmas party look, especially with this just in the center of the lid. And just, I honestly love these shades so much. I feel like the one shade is missing and that I will add on is a transition shade, just because these all are her special shades. They're all shimmery, but I love the look that I get in conjunction with using all these together. I think it's absolutely stunning. And if you haven't picked this palette up yet, I know it's really expensive, but it's something I would suggest, especially if you are looking for that special occasion palette. I just love this one. This one was definitely the one my eyes were drawn towards because it is more on the neutral side, and that's just what I tend to go to for my daily life. Can't get enough of this one. Really sad it's limited edition, but pick it up while you get the chance to. Moving on to number 8, we have the Natasha Denona Gold Palette. Oh god, that's very reflective. I doubt you could even see the packaging. So my one gripe about these shadows sometimes, which you just saw me eep about, is that they fall out. So I have lost a shade, sadly, which is this last shade here. But I've gotten a lot of use out of this one. Again, this is more of like a going out palette. It's not really, I mean, you could wear it in the daytime, obviously, and I use a lot of the mattes, but they are definitely filled with more, I don't know, kind of intense colors and colors that have, or shades that have more glitter in them. So I love using this for special occasions, for going out. The mattes blend like a dream. They're so creamy and buttery. The shimmers are lovely, and the glitters are, again, I always say that sophisticated, like almost like a mature glitter. Like it's just, you look so elegant and sophisticated, and they're beautiful. Definitely this palette has been a little beaten up, but I love this and highly suggest this one. I will say this is where things got really hard and I had a really hard time narrowing them down. So I tried my best, and this is what, yeah, these are the top 7, and like these are things I wouldn't even hesitate buying. They are palettes I use again and again, and I love them. Coming in at number 7, still debating, but this is the Pat McGrath, I always forget, this is the Bronze Seduction palette. So this is one of her mothership palettes, and it has these absolutely gorgeous tones in them. This came in at number 7 just because it is missing a few shades. There isn't a kind of cream shadow where you can use to highlight or set your like primer down. And there's also missing a transition shade for my skin tone personally. And also why it's rated a little lower is because all these shades are so intense and glittery. They're definitely going out shades. They're special occasion shades. These 4 last shades are, oh, they're just beautiful. And I definitely want to show you some looks with this palette because I think it is worth the price tag. And I'd like to do a multitude of looks just because I want you to get the most use out of a palette like this, especially when you're putting so much money down. But this bronze shade here is my favorite. You guys probably would guess that because of the looks I do. The rose gold is gorgeous too. I actually really like this red shade, and this just has the prettiest reflect to it. It's like a green gold and just looks beautiful if you want to use this as an eyeshadow topper. I'll give you a little swatch of that guy. Oh, it's gorgeous. This palette just can do no wrong, and it's definitely something I'm going to be using a ton this holiday season. So coming in at number 7 is this Pat McGrath palette. Number 6 is another Tom Ford palette. This is the Suspicion Eye Quad. I just used this in my Makeup That Gives Me Confidence video. I love these tones. They're beautiful. This is the Tom Ford Wet and Dry formula. So there's none of his special shades in this that are kind of the glitter top coats. These are all that wet to dry formula. They're more on the shimmery luminous side. Very sophisticated, very elegant, very gorgeous. I'll kind of do little finger swatches of those. I'm just gonna be a mess after this video, but okay, like I'm just the worst swatcher, but you can kind of get a good idea of that. They're very pigmented, but very sophisticated looking. I am using all these words over and over, I know, but that's just the type of eyeshadow formula I like. And I just love all the shades in here. I actually can complete a full look with this palette without using a transition shade. I feel like they just look very beautiful on the eyes. So that is coming in at number 6. Love this guy. Number 5 was such a surprise for me, and I am so happy that I bought this. I wasn't going to try it, but then I saw so many good reviews, and I'm so happy I picked this guy up. This is the Urban Decay Naked Honey palette. These are the shades in it, so I'm holding the brush in. But I just feel like this is such a good combination of warm tones. This is definitely a warm leaning palette, so if you don't like warm tones, I wouldn't suggest this for you. But the shimmers are so pigmented. They look beautiful on the eye. We don't have any glitters in here. And the matte shades, very pigmented, very velvety. They blend like a dream. I had no issue at all blending them out. I actually hated okay, hate's a strong word. I didn't get along with the other Urban Decay Naked palettes, which is why I hesitated purchasing this one. I just found like the pigment wasn't anything special. They were very average for me, and I felt like, why don't I just go get drugstore makeup versus purchasing those Naked palettes. I just found the quality pretty similar, but I'm so happy with this one, and I feel like I can get, again, a complete eye look out of this. I don't have to reach in any other eyeshadow palettes. We have that brow bone shade, we have all these different transition shades, we have a shade we can use to deepen up and use as an eyeliner, we have all these options for shimmers, and I'm just very pleasantly surprised by this palette and very glad that I have this in my collection, and I use it very often. This is something I'll pull out when I in my daily life, like I go to work, and I'm not going to obviously use intense glitters when I'm at my office job. So I love this, can't recommend it enough. Now, I thought the top 7 was hard to narrow down, but the top 4 was even harder. Coming in at number 4, we have the Anastasia Soft Glam palette. This is just such a classic palette. I've gotten so much use out of this one. This is my favorite Anastasia palette. As you can see, I've mentioned no other ones, and this is because I get the most use out of this. I am so happy with this. The eyeshadows are definitely more on the powdery side, but they're very blendable. Because they are so powdery, go in lighter handed. I do find I run through the shadows a little faster, again, because they are so powdery, but they're a beautiful formula. I love the color selection in here. You can't really go wrong. You're not gonna look at this palette and be like, what do I do with these shades? Very beginner friendly, very everyday friendly. If you love neutrals, you gotta get this one. Reasonable price too. I feel like if you're not into luxury makeup and you're looking for a good everyday palette, this is the one that I would suggest. And especially if you're beginning in makeup, I feel like these are beginner friendly, but just be careful with the pigment and tap off the excess. And they're definitely that powder formula where I prefer to do my eyes first, but I just love this palette. I think she did amazing with this, and it's my favorite Anastasia palette, obviously, and you can't go wrong. Number 3. This one is a classic, another Tom Ford palette. This is the Tom Ford Cocoa Mirage. I took mine traveling, and unfortunately that was a bad idea. This does not travel well, and my ivory shade shattered, and now it's just kind of messy. I should probably clean it out a little bit, but I'm scared to lose more of it. I love this palette. It's beautiful. These are definitely neutral tones. You're not gonna get anything warm toned out of this. I mean, they're a little bit warm, but it's such a gorgeous neutral eyeshadow palette. I can use this just by itself. You don't need any shimmers with this. It's such a sophisticated palette. This is perfect if you are a working woman and you just want something really easy and simple, and you're looking for something luxury to purchase that is worth the money that you're gonna get a lot of use out of. This is something that you can wear to work and not worry about being too over the top with all these shimmers and intense eye makeup. And these are just ridiculously easy to blend. They blend themselves. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but honestly, I feel like anyone could use this and would be able to blend it and be able to apply it. You can't go wrong with 4 shades that are obvious, like brow bone, inner corner, crease. You can put this on the lid or on the outer corner. Use this as eyeliner, use this on the outer corner. You can also create lots of different looks with it, but I love this palette. I can't get enough of it. I use it so often. One of my most used palettes, so this is why this is coming in at number 3. We are coming down to the final 2 palettes. I'm very excited about them. I wonder if you can guess what my number 1 will be. I know I haven't done too many videos on here, but anyways, let's get to number 2. This was a really tough one, and I went back and forth, but I think number 2 is going to have to be the Natasha Denona Biba palette. Mine's very dirty, and I'm scared to put it on its side because I've already lost a shadow, but I just have gotten so much use out of this one. I wasn't sure with it being a neutral palette, and it was another palette I almost hesitated purchasing just because I was like, I have so many neutral eyeshadows. Do I really need another neutral eyeshadow palette? And the answer is yes, I do. And I'm so happy with this one. I've dipped into every shade. I've loved every shade. I've had no issue with them. I'm really sad that my black fell out. It actually fell into the garbage can, so I wasn't gonna go digging in there. But this is actually an eyeshadow palette that I will repurchase when I get through at least like half the palette or maybe even a third of it. I definitely will. I use all the shades. I love all the shades. They are so pigmented, so definitely go in with a lighter hand if you're trying this out. But I'm so thrilled with this one. I am so happy with this release. Definitely my favorite Natasha Denona eyeshadow palette of all time. Oh wait, no, I'm lying because there's another one. My favorite large eyeshadow palette of all time. It's so good. So if you haven't tried this one, or if you're looking for a good neutral eyeshadow palette and you are willing to spend the money, definitely this one. And coming in at number 1, it's a teeny tiny guy, but it is oh so powerful and it's just my favorite. This is the Natasha Denona Mini Nude. I have actually hit pan on this, put it on its side, but again, this does not travel well. I obviously traveled with it and it was the worst idea. So I have hit pan on this. I've almost hit pan on this guy here, and same with this shade here. I've just gotten so much use out of this. This is something I wish I could take traveling because I know I would use all the colors. I just think this is perfect. I love this. This is an eyeshadow palette that I usually use, like I said, along with another palette, so that's kind of the one downfall. But I feel like for trying out Natasha Denona's formula and actually getting Natasha Denona's formula that you would get in her larger palettes, this is such a good option. It's I don't want to say it's affordable, it's not drugstore or anything, but if you want to try out her formula and are looking for such a good daily eyeshadow palette, I feel like this is your go-to. This bronzed shade right here, perfect on the lid. Like, I feel like some days I just apply this to the lid and the crease and I'm good to go. It's beautiful, and I love all the shades in here. This is definitely my favorite. If you haven't tried Natasha Denona eyeshadows and you're kind of hesitant to fork out that money, like it's a lot of money for the larger palettes, then I would definitely highly suggest trying this out. The shades in here are gorgeous. This is more of a duochrome that has a little bit of glitter in it, and this one is just very shimmery, has that gorgeous sheen. Oh, I feel like this is my perfect shade, my absolute perfect bronze gold shade. I just love it. So this is coming in at number 1. And I feel like I just talked so much and now I need a large glass of water. But that is it for ranking all my eyeshadows from worst to best, which again wasn't worst. Like the one I ranked last was not a bad palette. The ones I listed at the beginning that told you to avoid are not great palettes. Anyways, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this. It's a little different for me, but it was requested from a subscriber, so I definitely wanted to film it and and get it done. So please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Leave me those comments down below and let me know what is if you can't pick a number 1, pick your top 5 palettes and let me know what they are down below. I'm so curious because I know, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and I know that my favorite eyeshadow palettes might be some people's most hated palettes and vice versa. We're all different, and I think that's awesome. And yeah, I just want to know, do you hate any of the eyeshadow palettes I mentioned? Do you love them? Do you feel the same way about them? Let me know all your thoughts down below. Like I said, don't forget to subscribe, ring that bell, and I will just see you guys in my next video. Oh, and also if you want to know what look I'm wearing in this, I will link the tutorial down below. This is my try on Sephora haul, or my putting on the makeup from my Sephora haul. You know what I mean. Anyways, enough talking. I'll see you in my next video.